Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us and happy Thursday. I hope everybody's doing well. And for this month's Promising Practices Roundtable, we're going to be going over streamlining AB 540 processing through departmental collaborations. So thank you all for being here. And some of the objectives for today is that participants will enhance collaboration among campus departments to streamline AB 540 student support, improve awareness of AB 540 eligibility, processes for accurate student guidance, and identify and fill gaps to expand in-state tuition access and implement best practices. And about Immigrants Rising, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. But our goal and our mission is to empower undocumented people to achieve educational and career goals through personal, institution, and policy transformation. So thank you all for the work that you do and for being part of this mission.
Hi, and I realized we did not do a slide for this, but Maria, would you like to do a quick introduction of yourself? And then I can also introduce myself.
Yeah, of course. My name is Maria Gutierrez, and I am the higher ed manager here at Immigrants Rising. I've worked at the community college level for the past, and yeah, thank you for sharing space with us.
Yeah, and Madeline Villanueva, our interim director of higher ed. And we're excited to have you all today here to share space with us. And so what we have planned for our next hour and a half together, we are finishing up kind of like our welcome and grounding right now. If you have not introduced yourself in the chat yet, please do so. We have folks sharing their name, campus, pronouns, position, campus and organization, I mean. And so after this part, we will be kind of creating a common understanding with you all by just going over some base knowledge around AB 540, and then have you all reflect on some of the AB 540 support services at your campus and just some other undocumented support services present at your campus and organization as well through this activity. And then you will be hearing from some 3 amazing practitioners during our Promising Practices panel. Maybe we can do a quick introduction of them as well now. And then we'll end with some additional like IR offerings, some networking opportunities through our Building Collective Solutions breakout room, and then closing our space. And then we are recording this meeting and materials will be shared with all registrants after. But before we transition to the next section, I'll call on our practitioners to just quickly introduce themselves now too, and then we'll hear more from you later during our panel. So Julissa, do you mind kicking us off?
It will be my pleasure. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? My name is Julissa Loza Mendez. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I'm the Cash for College Inland Empire coordinator. So I oversee the Cash for College program for the San Bernardino and the Riverside County. And the organization that I'm representing is Growing Inland Achievement.
Thank you, Julissa. Diego?
Hi everyone, my name is Diego Bautista. My pronouns are he, him, él. I'm at Skyline College as the UCC coordinator.
Great, thank you. Mariela?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Mariela. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an enrollment specialist at Hartnell College.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you all. We'll hear a little bit more from all of our panelists later, and then we'll kick off our kind of like creating a common understanding section right now. And so we'll kind of start off with just the benefits of AB 540, right? Which I think is a good grounding, not just for yourself, but for the students that you work with as well, who may not be eligible yet. And we know that the process to become eligible could be long and a little bit time consuming. And so I think it's good to also ground students in some of the benefits that you do get with AB 540 after the time that you put in for it too, right? And so I think the one we always speak about is the exemption from out-of-state fees, which we know can be a big barrier since those out-of-state fees are about 2 to 3 times more than resident fees. But AB 540 students can also get like a fee waiver when applying to the CSU and UC. If they meet income requirements, they can get access to support through EOPS and EOP, and also view their financial aid awards to kind of help make that college decision for them as well. And we know that AB 540 is really important, right, to disperse financial aid and scholarships, since lack of AB 540 can like block students, put a hold on students' account. And it also helps them be eligible for certain paid professional development opportunities like the Dreamer Service Incentive Grant, California College Course for participating institutions, and institutional opportunities if they exist at their college. And so I think this is a really good kind of like starting point to also share with students, right, alongside the requirements themselves. And as for those requirements, we do want to go over them here too, because we know we have folks in the room who may be longtime AB 540 advocates who's been working with it since like it first passed in 2001, right? And we also have maybe folks who are a little bit newer, getting their feet wet with AB 540, when we also recognize that the law has thankfully expanded by a lot, actually, since it was first implemented. And so we have the requirements here for you in the screen, and you can check out our quick guide that's linked here as well to follow along or to have a refresher afterwards. But the requirements have 3 parts, and the first part is kind of like the immigration status. So AB 540 is not open to folks with non-immigrant visas. So those are like international students, those with visitor visas, but it is open to undocumented students, with or without DACA, right? Folks with TNU visas, as well as legal permanent residents and US citizens. And then the second part of the requirement are those attendance requirements, which can be fulfilled either by attending 3 years full-time or part-time equivalent at these California institutions, and including taking credit and non-credit classes at California community colleges, or if a student graduated from high school early, but still attained 3 years of credits, they can actually pull in attendance at elementary or middle school to kind of make up their 3 years together. And then the last bit is just around the degree requirements. So attainment of any of the degrees listed here on the screen, including California High School Diploma, GED, CHESP, HiSET, Associate's degree, or if they met the minimum transfer requirements to a CSU or UC. And we just threw that link in the chat too. And this resource is actually also available in Spanish. So if you all are also working with any newcomer students who speak Spanish, that would be a good thing to share with them as well. And then I'm also happy to share, if folks have been connected with Immigrants Rising for a while, we do have this really great AB 540 FAQ, which we first published in 2023. That is a pretty comprehensive resource that answers a lot of common questions around AB 540, starting from the requirements, the process, its connection with financial aid, right? And so we actually just finished update to this resource, I think like earlier this week around Tuesday, and it's actually now live on our resource. And so this is a kind of like our most up-to-date, very comprehensive document that's really helpful for if you're guiding students on a one-on-one basis and like navigating the requirements, navigating the process, right? To even if you are kind of doing the processing for AB 540 yourself on your campus. I think we've heard from different partners that they've used this as like a training tool for folks who are being onboarded to AB 540 on their campus. And we do partner with the California Community Colleges, CSU, and University of California to make sure that this resource is most up to date. So we also threw that in the chat for folks to check out. We'll be doing a lot more promotion for this. But our main updates in this new version of the resource is around addressing kind of like data protections as it relates to AB 540, as well as the change in the UC Statement of Legal Residency timeline that happened this past fall. And we also did get confirmation from the UC that they are now going to be using the AB 540 affidavit that's received through CADA, just to kind of like help minimize some of the processes, right, for students. And I'll pass it to Maria to kind of keep us going. If you do have questions, please throw in the chat. We'll try to address it via chat or verbally too.
Yeah, so the other update that we've seen from this past academic year is that through AB 1540, which integrates the AB 540 affidavit within the California DREAM Act application. So any student that completes a California DREAM Act will essentially also complete an AB 540 as long as the school is listed within the student's CADA application. It'll also be accessible to colleges or universities as an AB 540 report via the web grants portal. So we've heard some feedback from practitioners on how that is going, and hopefully during our panel we'll kind of have a little bit of insight on that too. And the other thing is that it must be shared by financial aid with admissions and records or any other department on campus that processes the AB 540 affidavit. And they might need the affidavit for auditing purposes, but this is kind of where we see the different departments that have to collaborate in order to ensure that the student is able to be AB 540 as it is their right if they do meet all other requirements. And just a reminder that CSAC does not determine the actual eligibility from them. It's just a platform for them to be able to submit the AB 540 affidavit. But we are excited because this has created some like streamlining just that AB 540 submission affidavit or giving students additional ways to submit it other than like by PDF through email or submitting it in person. And we also have this pretty cool guide on completing the AB 540 affidavit. So if any of you are interested in that one, we'll definitely do it we'll include it as well. And just kind of keeping in mind that it might look a little bit different from community colleges, CSUs, or UCs. So for example, for UCs and CSU, it might be within the California questionnaire. So it's this guide helps you kind of see the differences between that and just how to submit it. But in essence, it will go over how to download, fill the AB 540 PDF and submit it to admissions and records for CCCs, admissions for CSU, or the registrar for UCs, or you're able to complete, like we said, the California DREAM Act, which has the AB 540 embedded. And lastly, submit documentation if needed. So we do know that all UCs and CSUs and some community colleges require students to submit types of documentation with the affidavit, such as an official transcript or a proof of GED, depending on the institution.
Great. And so I think with that, we threw a lot of links in the chat. So definitely encourage folks to kind of like go through that a little bit closer if you need to post this roundtable. But we do want to kind of take like a pullback kind of look and see now the different ways that AB 540 affidavits, right, are received by our campuses, which we've heard can come from a lot of different ways. So it could come directly from those admission and registrar's office, undocumented student programs or DRCs. Students can sometimes hear about it from their counselors, their peers themselves, right, receive an email about it or even find it on a website. And kind of turn in the AB 540 affidavit that way. And that goes through the admissions and registrar for processing afterwards. But now we did mention the affidavit is now embedded in the CADA, which is coming from the financial aid office, who must share that data with admissions and registrar to figure out if they need some additional documentation, right? If they need transcripts to request that from students, or we also have some community colleges who do self-certification and just require the affidavit, right? And they're the ones to kind of approve or deny the students based on the information they provide. And so I think as we see here, right, that the CADA is just supposed to be an additional method to collect those affidavits and hopefully reduce the number of forms that students are filling out to get financial aid. But we also know that not all students complete the CADA, and we also even have FAFSA and AB 540 students too. And so I think it's just being aware of the different ways we are able to receive the affidavits and aware of the different departments that kind of play a process in the play a role in the AB 540 process. And I think that's why we're really kind of centering today's conversation, right, on those departmental and community partnerships, collaborations, and how leveraging them and strengthening them can really streamline the process for AB 540, both for students and staff. And so before we kind of get into that, I think I do want to share this really great resource by Institutional Solutions, who's led by our previous amazing Director of Higher Education, Nancy Jeditis. I think we've always known that language is super important when working with undocumented students, but especially now with just more concerns from immigrant communities and the state of the world, right? And so we are sharing this guide that kind of provides enrollment staff from financial aid and admissions with tangible language for them to support undocumented and mixed status families in navigating the AB 540 and financial aid process in a way that doesn't like inadvertently close any doors and kind of like helps open up like opportunities for them potentially, or even helps dig in a little bit deeper so you all can figure out what the best way to guide them is. And we'll throw the link to this in the chat, or it's also accessible through this QR code. But this guide does have like sample language here. So instead of saying something like you only have 2 years of high school, AB 540 requires 3 years, this can be reframed to like, I see you have 2 years of high school. Did you take any adult ed or non-credit classes in California? Or I see you graduated from California high school. When you were younger, did you take elementary or middle school classes in California? And so kind of like reshifting that language, right, to see if the student potentially could be open, could have other ways to be eligible for AB 540 in a way that doesn't kind of make them feel conscious of their immigration status, right, or shuts the door down again for them. So we'll put that in the chat, and hopefully folks can also check this out. It's also really useful if you are having one-on-one conversations too with students, right, and helping them understand AB 540 requirements and processing.
Okay, thank you for wrapping us up with the resources, Madeline. So up next, we're going to go into an activity that we're going to do. We named it In Their Shoes. So we're going to share a link on the chat. Feel free to create a copy so that you're able to use it. And essentially, it's a checkoff list. And what this will do is kind of help you look at your website and or thinking about your physical space. And if you were an incoming undocumented student planning to attend your campus, would you be able to find this information online or in person? So the objective is to help you evaluate and determine how you could improve your undocumented student resource presence online or on campus, and pinpoint different departments to collaborate to best support undocumented students. So that has been linked in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and give folks about 10 minutes to work on this. It's okay if you don't finish it. It can always be an ongoing thing because there is always space for improvement. And not to mention there is also updates that happen every so often. And hopefully this also gives you a chance to prepare for the panelists and any questions that you might have coming directly from your campus that you might notice if there are any gaps or any space for improvement. So we'll go ahead and put that here again. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and put that link in the chat, and we'll give folks about 10 minutes and we'll call you back in 10 minutes.
The recording. Okay. So we'll now transition to our panel, which will be facilitated by Maria, and then we did hear a quick introduction from today's champion, but I'll just do a quick round of them again. So we have Julissa Loza Mendez from the Growing Inland Achievement and as a Cash for College coordinator in her region. Mariela Lopez from Hartnell College, and then Diego Bautista from Skyline College. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then pass it to Maria to get us started with our panel.
Awesome. And then while Madeline spotlights them, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you all already for introducing yourself. Feel free to also include a little bit of what your day-to-day looks like in your role. So we could go ahead and just do that. What do you do in your role? And reintroduce yourself for folks that may have joined a little bit later. And we could start with Diego. We could do alphabetical order.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Diego Bautista. My pronouns are he, him, él. I am at Skyline College, a UCC coordinator. I usually work with a lot of documented students here at Skyline, just with like registering for CC Applied, making sure they qualify for AB 540, residency reclassification, or the 6-year units that we have here at the San Mateo District. So usually that's what I usually do here with Skyline College, and also just plan events and just to try to bring more of like partnership outside of the community to help our students with like knowing their rights.
Awesome, thank you. And then Julissa.
Good morning. Thank you for everyone for joining us. So my position is I'm the Cash for College coordinator. And what that means is that CSAC is in Sacramento. They cannot be all over California, so they have what's called RCOs, so Regional Coordinating Organizations. And my responsibility is to oversee financial aid in the San Bernardino County and Riverside County. So I work directly with high schools to teach them about financial aid, to do financial aid applications and do one-on-ones. But I also work with colleges and universities for their financial nights to train them or to answer any financial aid questions. Whatever feedback comes back, whatever issues or complications I'm seeing with our students, I then go ahead and report it to CSAC, and CSAC has done changes because of that. So my job is very much of helping all students get financial aid so they can achieve their college goals.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then Mariela.
Hi everyone, I'm Mariela. I'm an enrollment specialist at Hartnell College. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And generally on a day-to-day basis, I'm just constantly interacting with students as they come into our admissions and financial aid office. I assist them with their admissions application, with residency, with AB 540, and any financial aid updates or connections to their financial aid specialist, as well as assisting at our Cash for College events that we host too.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then we'll go ahead and start focusing on definitely the AB 540. So this question will go to Julissa, and I put it in the chat. In your role, what strategies have been effective in helping students successfully navigate the AB 540 process?
Awesome. So I really like that question. And the reason why is when I'm training my team, the first thing I tell them is always assume someone here in the room is undocumented. You don't want to just say, hey, raise your hand, see if you're undocumented. No. We want to give them privacy. But you always talk as if there's someone, either a student or a parent that's undocumented. And with that knowledge, you will consciously make an effort to add both the FAFSA information, but also the KEDA information and tailor your questions more for undocumented students. And what's nice about this is even if there's no student that's undocumented, they now know the procedures to help their friends that might be an undocumented student, or even give this information to their parents that may be undocumented who've always wanted to go to college. The second thing I have is just have this information in your presentations and your website somewhere that's accessible. So for example, I work very much in financial aid. I constantly tell counselors don't say FAFSA nights because FAFSA is automatically assuming that the student has some level of a social security number. Even though you're here to help all students, because you're calling it FAFSA, that might not be encouraging for the students who are undocumented. And not every undocumented student is going to feel comfortable telling you that they are undocumented. So let's reward them a little bit to instead of saying FAFSA nights, saying financial aid nights. And then the third one is just having the knowledge to continue training yourself either through Immigrants Rising or President's Alliance or talking to a Dreamer Center in your local community, but continue training yourself to have those follow-up discussions for students who might not be AB 540 eligible. So for example, if you have a student that came here when they were junior and senior year of high school and they need 3 years in California or 3 years equivalent credit, what's the follow-up discussion you're going to have with those students? Because the students are looking at you for that information. So again, you're taking up this responsibility of being a leader so that you can guide your students for those resources.
Yeah, I definitely heard the importance of inclusivity within language, which we highlighted from the resource shared from Institutions from Knowledges, and also wanted to highlight like including it in your PowerPoint. Maybe you don't say it verbally, but just knowing that it is there and it exists might make the difference. So again, just hiding the inclusivity of it. Thank you so much, Elisa. And then Diego will go ahead and ask you the same question. So, what strategies have been effective in helping students successfully navigate the AB 540 process?
So when I used to approve them at my past role at Chabot College, I used to, students would question a lot, like, why should I fill this out? And I would use my personal experience as telling them, like, hey, I also did this. Don't worry. Like, your information is just being used for financial aid purposes. Make sure you don't get charged out of state. And so I just try to guide students with just educating them what's the AB 540 and making sure that they feel comfortable signing it, but not making them feel forced to sign it. So I always tell them to just reach out for any questions, concerns. With just approving them, it was so easy for students just to come to me because I would just approve them on the spot. I'll tell them, oh, this is 5 minutes. And students will also kind of like, get nervous and kind of be like in stressing out because of the tuition fees. And when they just get to meet with me, they tell me all their situations going on with like, why am I getting charged so much? I've been here for this long. Like, why do I have to do this? And so sometimes you just have to have those patients where you just got to sit with them, guide them through the application. And then once you get it done, I have seen students just feel more relaxed, more comfortable, like continue with their education. Just with that, I think, I think just educating our students and guiding them through the application helps a lot. And also try to, make them feel more comfortable and then also doing warm handoffs on campus where they can also get support.
Awesome. So it seems like a lot of like student facing approach and helping them on the spot when possible, of course, and just being them with them and guiding it through it versus just expecting the actual application or the affidavit to come in. And then since you do work with students like in the day to day, would you say that given the political climate, conversations and or messaging has changed. And this could be open to any of the panelists too.
I think for me right now, it's been really difficult just because of, there's been saying that ICE can come into schools. And so students just show up to classes and leave after, or just prefer to take online classes. So it's been very difficult, but, we're trying our best to just also reach out to them with like providing them a workshop like a Know Your Rights training we did in the past 2 weeks ago, where we try to bring them in on campus to know their rights and just try to educate them, but also seeing who's in the room, like presidents, administrators, financial aid, admissions records. So I think in my role, I think I just try to build that connection, that community where students can feel comfortable coming to school, but also asking for help on campus.
I could also add on to that question. So one of the big hot questions I was asked this year was there was CADA for mixed status families.
Mm.
So many of the counselors were saying, Julissa, how can we even approach this subject? Because we don't want students to just do the CADA, especially if they are FAFSA eligible, because they're missing out the Pell Grant. But we also want to give them that information that if they don't feel comfortable putting their information in the FAFSA application, we can do the CADA. So this is an example of the political climate is really influencing the conversations we're having. So one thing I do recommend for anyone in this room is continue educating yourself because information is updating every other week. Sometimes even in less than 48 hours, it is updating. But we need to be able to understand what we tell our students, but also coming from a lens of educating them instead of creating fear. So for example, going back to the original one I gave you about the CADA for FAFSA filers,
Yeah.
my first question to the students is your undocumented parent, do they have an ITIN number? And if they said, yes, my undocumented parent has an ITIN number, okay, right away, I recommend you do FAFSA because your undocumented parent is already registered in the federal government. So in this case, it's more financially wiser to do the FAFSA and get that Pell Grant than it is to do the CADA. So see how instead of going from a fear base, it's more of a knowledge base. So that is my biggest recommendation for people in this room is keep yourself updated. Make sure that you are coming more of a research base than a fear or uncertainty base. And also, if you don't know what to do, always feel comfortable to say, I don't know, but let me figure this out. Let me see what I could do.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I do hear talking to them about what's actually going on and giving them the resources for them to be empowered to make their own decisions, to see what they want to do, knowing the facts of what could happen, what is happening, and what could change. So thank you both for saying that. I think it's important to acknowledge that although the political climate is the way it is, there still are other options, and college is an accessible option, regardless of immigration status. And then I do see we have a hand up. We'll go ahead and wait until after the panel, if that's okay. If you could put your question on the chat, just in case we do get to it, but we will get back to you. And then the next question, we'll go ahead and ask Mariela. So for this question, put it in the chat. How does the department collaboration / community-based partnership streamline the AB 540 process?
Yeah, so I think what we've seen here at Hartnell is that departmental collaboration is definitely essential in having the AB 540 processed for students, but also making them aware of the benefits there is to it. I think overall, just recognizing that as educators, we all have the same end goal, right? To support our students, to help them pursue a higher education and provide them with resources, whether that be academic, personal, or financial. It's really ensuring that our students are able to have their needs met and then that they feel heard and supported. So for us, one of the primary collaborations that we do have is with our Undocumented Resource Center here on campus. So we do recognize that students are always welcome to come into our admissions and our financial aid office for assistance, but sometimes they may not feel so comfortable disclosing their status within our office. So we do have office hours that we host specifically at our Undocumented Resource Center. It's called Mi Casa here for us, where me as an enrollment specialist, I have office hours up there once a week where students can set up appointments to meet just with me and not feel like they have to disclose that information in an open office setting, like the one that we have in our admissions and financial aid office. And then I think just generally recognizing that students do want to know what AB 540 is. I do have them come into our office because they've been referred by other departments who may not be super familiar with the process, but they're like, hey, I know someone in the admissions office that can help you. And then, like Diego mentioned, we do like to practice warm handoff. So instead of sending the student, oh, you can go to building F and then get assistance, you walk them over and you say, hey, this is a student here. Like, this is Mariela. You can go to her. She can assist you with the AB 540. And then the student just feels more reassured and that they know they're on the right spot on campus to receive that assistance.
Yeah, so it looks like definitely collaboration with your undocumented support center, and as well as walking the student over, them not having to retell their story and their situation and hoping that they're talking to somebody that is an ally have been like really big ones for you. Thank you for that. And then same question for you, Diego. Um, how does the department collaboration community-based partnership streamline the AB 540 when you were processing them?
So for me, I've been doing a lot of high school visits, so I like to make sure, like, I'm out there and, just representing Skyline in the UCC and making sure that students are aware of, like, if they do come to Skyline College, they already met me and they could just come to the space and then we could have check-ins or also just give them my contact information. I always tell them, like, even though you haven't started at Skyline, you feel free to message me if you have any questions or concerns, or you might need some resources for you or your family. The other thing I would do is just like for when I approve a help student with the AB 540, I usually email the person that's approving them. And then letting them know, like, hey, I just helped the student, this update that they look all good to go. And then when it comes to financial aid, I like to walk them to financial aid as well, just because I, like someone mentioned before, like, they don't want to retell their story again. So I'll make sure, like, I'm connecting to the right people. And then during that walk, I take the time to just get to know them more. Just ask them, like, how's it going? Like, what are things you're planning to do? What's your educational goal? And I think just building that connection with the student helps a lot because they feel more comfortable and they knowing that, you know, there's going to be people supporting them throughout their educational journey. Another thing from my past experience working at Chabot, so we had students that applied, the CC applied for community college, and for students that apply for other for citizenship status, we had someone in the IT department will get that students list of students that put other, and then we will send them an email saying like, hey, this is the UCC, like, you know, we noticed that you marked as other, you know, I feel free to connect for resources, how to qualify for in-state tuition. And so those emails worked out a lot because then students would come in like, hey, I got an email, like you guys are helping undocumented students or students with no status. And so they'll come into our space and we'll support them and see what's the best option for them to apply for.
That's really cool. So then students that had applied within that month you would get a list of those students that marked other as their citizenship status, and then you would have their email information to reach out to them to help them with their AB 540. That's really cool because I think that something that I remember when I applied was, hey, you've been accepted. And then the next email was like, hey, you have to pay non-resident tuition. And then I was like, what is that? Why am I getting this? Why is the amount number so big? So that's really cool that you get to add that extra layer of email that might be a little bit more undocu-friendly and just like, hey, if you have questions, here we are. So that's a really cool collaboration space. Thank you for that. And then I'll go over to Mariela. Given that you process AB 540s, how is data shared from individuals receiving the information from the California Dream Act to you processing the AB 540, and what have been the impacts of AB 1540?
Yeah, so I think the benefit of my position as an enrollment specialist is that I do get to have access to both the admissions and records of students, and then as well as our financial aid records. So there isn't a lack of there isn't a need for, you know, an extra step in communication on that because I am able to just access the information myself. But for an admissions staff member who is only in admissions and records, because our departments are in the same office, there is strong day-to-day collaboration. So we're constantly interacting with our staff. And then if there are any questions that come up, they're immediately able to, you know, say, hey, I noticed this student is, you know, being charged out of state residency fees. Is there any way we can get that updated? Does the student have to come in, or do we already have the information? So I've definitely seen that be a benefit of having the AB 540 embedded in the DREAM Act application, because I'll work directly with our financial aid director who receives the CAL ISER, which is the institutional report for the DREAM Act. And then he just shares that information with me, and I'm able to access from web grants the students' AB 540s and then just kind of update that in the system. So on the students' end, it kind of seems like, hey, I submitted my financial aid application and it was like automatically processed in the office, you know? And we want that. We want that to be facilitated for our students to like prevent them from having to come back in and say, oh, I saw these fees. And, you know, I've had students come in and think they have to drop their courses because they're being charged like $4,000, you know? And then we're like, hey, no, like there is something we can do to assist you. And then it's I think it's just like really nice to be able to see them say, oh my God, thank you. Like you know, I'm really appreciative of being able to attend college and not have these crazy fees applied to their account. Still though, in processing the AB 540s, we do see that like with it embedded in the DREAM Act, it has facilitated it where, you know, I can just do it on my end and not have the students come in, but it is a very new aspect of the CADA, so some students still may not know exactly how to fill it out on there, because we see that issue also with the paper AB 540 that we process. So because I do have access to see a student's admissions application, I can see, hey, so on your admissions application, you noted that you attended high school, 2 different high schools, right? Let's say they attended one high school and then transferred to another one, graduated from there. So on their affidavit within the CADA, they only listed the school they graduated from. And then I reach out to the student and I'm like, look, it looks like you are eligible. So just go ahead and come in. I can explain to you what the AB 540 is and then how we can get your tuition resolved in our system.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that a lot of students sometimes might be afraid even as they're submitting the California Dream Act, and they're just on panic mode trying to get it in, and that's it. So they might not read thoroughly of all the information that is being asked of them. So I think it's really nice that you go ahead and reach out to them rather than, let's say, just denying it on the spot, like taking that extra step and really ensuring that students are getting everything that they're entitled to receive. And then for you, Mariela, it's not a right or wrong. Um, do you think that students since 1540 have been getting approved for AB 540 more that way, or would you say you're still getting maybe like paper submissions as you have been in the past?
I think as of now, we have been getting more through the DREAM Act, the 1540, but not all students submit a DREAM Act application, so some students may not know exactly what it is. So we do still receive the paper ones, and then once we do, we go ahead and encourage the student to stop by one of our workshops or just come into the office for assistance on actually filling out their DREAM Act application to ensure they have all the financial aid they could be entitled to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I think it's noteworthy highlighting that not all students are going to submit the CADA, not all of students are going to be comfortable putting in that information, but still being AB 540 eligible is going to do it. So we'll do one last question for Julissa. What advice would you give to improve department collaboration, community-based partnership in order to effectively guide undocumented students through the AB 540 process?
My advice is just to be very transparent with the student. So put yourself in a student's perspective. If I were your student, can I go to your website and easily navigate to find information for me? I'm going to your website, I see scholarships, but all the scholarships are about me having a social security or doing the FAFSA. Do you have scholarships for me as an undocumented student? You're saying that you're promoting having conversations about being undocumented. Are also scholars who are undocumented getting scholarships through your website, or are you sharing their stories too? So these are questions that students see. They, again, with most students, and especially this new generation, they want to make sure that they're getting that information as fast and as accurately as possible. So my advice for everyone will be make sure that your information is transparent. And with that, also try to make the words easier for the student to understand. I know that sometimes we as professionals love to put our acronyms and our AB numbers, etc. But for some students, they don't know what that word means or what that AB 540 vocabulary means. So again, try to describe it if you can. Try to put it in the website, AB 540. Here's the link to learn more about it. Please click here. And then there's the chart. Okay, as a student, now I know what AB 540 is. And also, as I've been repeating myself, training, training, training. You can never have enough to know what's going on, especially this year with the political climate changing so often. Please just be updated because that information that you thought you knew last year may be very different from the information you know or the information that is this week. So to conclude, I'll say you're all doing an amazing job by coming even here to Immigrants Rising Roundtable and giving us a couple minutes of your time. That's the first step always. And I'll put my contact information on the chat. So if you have any other questions, I would love to be able to answer them.
Awesome, thank you. And I think it's also important that sometimes at the Cash for College events, like that might be the first time that an undocumented student understands the implications of being undocumented and the reality of what that means. So having this information and events such as Cash for College might be the point where they start learning about AB 540. And I think we'll go to Mariela to close us up with the same questions, but given that you process AB 540s, what are some advice that you would give to improve department collaboration?
Yeah, thank you. So I think providing professional development opportunities for our staff that specifically address AB 540 and the challenges that our undocumented students face would help everyone on campus, not just someone who processes the form, not just admissions and records and financial aid, but everyone on campus, because we all work with students, right? So some students may feel more comfortable with a professor they've known for a long time to disclose their status. And so then if these other staff on campus are kind of a little bit cross-trained on what AB 540 is, they know how to refer them to our departments. And then I think just in general, what I've seen here on campus from our Undocumented Resource Center is that they do have relationships with other organizations that provide support for our undocumented communities, our students, our parents, and then they've also assisted us with letting them know what AB 540 is, and then the different programs that they have where they assist students who may not be eligible just yet into like obtaining that eligibility. And then I would say for students who are incoming students, our first-time students, something that we do like to do is outreach to our local high schools. So make sure we have constant communication with them and a partnership where we say, hey, your students may be interested in attending not just Hartnell, but any other community college or four-year. We do have workshops that we provide. We'll let you know when they are so that we can invite your students. Or like Julissa, we do our Cash for College and go to the students, go to those campuses and provide that assistance to them in a setting that they're already familiar with.
Yeah, I think something important to highlight is you going to the students versus waiting for the students to come to you and having those resources available, especially because same thing, you can't just be like, oh, everybody's going to submit the FAFSA. Just being prepared and acknowledging that there might be at least one or more undocumented folks in the room. And I think the other one is like, yeah, making sure that faculty who are teaching classes and might be the ones that have that one-on-one with students at opportunities more so often because they are enrolled in the classes, them having that knowledge is really going to be helpful in ensuring that undocumented students know about AB 540 and CADA. Thank you all for sharing your experiences with us, for letting us know a little bit more about what has been working for your institution or your organization. And again, just wanted to thank all of the participants, the panelists for being here and being open to sharing your experiences. And we'll go ahead and move forward with the next slide. We'll also share their contact information at the end in case you do want to reach out to them.
Okay, just give me a second to pull everything up again. And Maria, if I can get your support at unspotlighting people too, that'd be great. Okay, yeah, and thank you so much to our panelists who do great work. It sounds like in your campus, right? And thank you all for sharing that in the space here and helping folks kind of think about like maybe what can be taken back and replicable to their campus, right? And so we are not wrapping up yet, so hopefully folks are not logging off yet. We do want to share some resources first before we give folks a chance to kind of like network with each other and think about or kind of reflect on some of the information and resources provided today. But before we do that, I do want to make a quick announcement about our final, because we're getting closer to the end of the semester, which is very hard for me to think about. Our final Promising Practice Roundtable for the spring, which will be taking place on April 24th, 2025, will be focusing on building or strengthening professional and leadership development programs like paid opportunities for undocumented students. So please sign up for this to hear how to get one started or to kind of strengthen one that's already existing on your campus. Maria will put that link in the chat for folks to sign up for that. And then we also have our Undocu Digest if you'd like to kind of keep updated on our different offerings. If you don't already receive this, I think if you signed up for this space today, you should have been prompted to sign up for the Undocu Digest already. But again, Julissa talked a lot about like keeping yourself informed, right, and keeping updated on the changes. We want to make sure that you have all the tools you need to kind of like navigate what's been going on. And so one of the best ways to do that is through the Undocu Digest. So we'll also kind of share the link to sign up for this as well. And then we have some additional offerings for folks to just know about. As you're also working with undocumented students, I think Diego talked a lot about like connecting students to additional resources as well beyond AB 540 if you're working with undocumented folks, since they may not necessarily be aware of what's available for them. And so we know that mental health is a really big concern right now. I think it always is for undocumented students, but especially in today's political climate. So we do have our mental health connector open right now for undocumented students in California who are looking for free and confidential therapy services. This connector pairs them up with a licensed and skilled therapist working with who has worked with undocumented folks before to get a few sessions to get those mental health support. We've also updated our guide for undocumented individuals traveling in the US. So again, if we know that it's been a little bit concerning, right, to move through this country as undocumented folks, but this guide has updated with some of the latest guidance in travel, as well as just some considerations around immigration enforcement in different states, right, even beyond California. And then if you are working with people in Fresno, we actually are doing a Fresno Entrepreneurship Academy. This has already started and we're accepting applications on a rolling basis, but this is for undocumented students in Fresno looking for support and funds to start and grow their own business. And all of this will be shared with folks, so you can click on all these links. And then we've also thrown our panelists, our amazing panelists, information in the chat for folks to get connected with beyond this space. Definitely reach out to them if you'd like to learn a little bit more about their own work, about ways to replicate some of their practices on your own campus, as well as mine and Maria's emails here too.
And like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and before we close up, like we said, we are going to have breakout rooms for our last 10 minutes. And this is where we'll kind of do our theory in action towards the end of the session, which we'll be able to, you'll be able to network with other practitioners and ask questions about what is happening with them. Again, we are looking at collaborative, so this is a space for you to be able to do that. And then next slide. So we're just going to throw up the evaluation reminder in the chat before we go into breakout rooms. Please let us know what you think about them and how we could improve and what else you might want to learn from in the future. And then we could go ahead to the next slide. And so we're going to go ahead and start the networking breakout rooms. Madeline, do you want to do the breakout rooms for me? Sorry, we didn't discuss this one.
Go ahead and get that started. Maybe Maria, you can share some of the guiding questions.
Yes. So some of the questions here would be what is something that you learned from the session with others? What are some opportunities around the AB 540 support or collaboration in your campus? And what are the next steps that you could do after this meeting? So hopefully this gives you all a chance to check in with each other and see what your campus is doing, and maybe it's something that you could integrate with it, or maybe you could talk about challenges that are happening in your campus and getting feedback on how you could improve that or help get just different ideas all in all. So we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll kind of bring folks back in before we officially end. But we wanted to provide that networking space because a lot of us are who are doing the work day in and day out, and it's always great to learn from each other.
All right, give me one last second to just do some rooms. We're going to open